Warning! Warning! The following video is intended for educational and entertainment use only. The content will include disturbing images, violent scenarios, and explicit language. This video is intended for 18 plus and older audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
Sam Giancana, a longtime leader of Chicago's crime syndicate, was shot dead last night in his suburban Chicago home. Giancana, known as Momo, was 65. In recent weeks, Giancana had achieved additional notoriety because of claims from various sources that he was involved in CIA plots to murder Fidel Castro. Ron Miller has more on the Giancana murder.
Sam Momo Giancana was no stranger to notoriety, and some say he enjoyed all the attention that a crime boss receives. He was in and out of court during his criminal career, arrested more than 40 times, but convicted on only 3 charges. During his 50 years in the underworld, Giancana developed numerous alliances. He also developed numerous enemies. Giancana dropped out of view during the past several weeks. He was reportedly hospitalized for surgery. But last night, the police saw Giancana again.
When the police arrived, they found Mr. Giancana laying on the floor, dead, been shot numerous times in the upper part of his body and throat. Approximately 6 shots believed to be fired from a .22 caliber weapon.
And that's about all the police know. He was found by his caretaker in the basement of his home in a fashionable Chicago suburb. Police are interviewing Giancana's neighbors, but predictably, no one saw or heard anything. Police speculate Giancana knew his murderer. There was no sign of a struggle, no sign of a break-in. It was all very professional, although the .22 caliber weapon used in the killing is unusual in crime syndicate murders. Giancana had extensive gambling interests in Cuba before Fidel Castro came to power. He and the crime syndicate did not like giving up those lucrative holdings. Giancana was frequently singer Phyllis McGuire's escort. He obviously enjoyed it. He did not enjoy, however, the legal maneuvering that forced him to cooperate with a federal grand jury in recent months. Criminals were speculating about how much Giancana was telling the jury, and they were apparently nervous about his alleged link with the CIA.
If it's true that Giancana did some work for the CIA, or contracted to do some work for him, again, it's a possibility that mobsters might be afraid of an anticipated subpoena from a congressional committee.
This is David Shoemaker in Washington. Those familiar with the Mafia's relationship with the CIA explain it as a healthy mix of patriotism and self-interest. It is apparently true that Sam Giancana served as a go-between, putting one of his former lieutenants, Johnny Roselli, at the service of the CIA when the agency reportedly wanted Fidel Castro killed. That was in the early 1960s. But it is also true, ABC News has learned, that even in the late 1960s, Giancana was still trying to have Castro killed for reasons of his own. The Chicago mobster took part in a Mafia summit meeting in Miami, the syndicate seeking revenge for Castro's nationalization of its gambling casinos. A hitman was sent via Mexico to do the job, but he fared no better than Roselli's men did for the CIA. There was a time when Senate investigators did want to talk with Giancana, but once Roselli agreed to testify, their interest cooled. And the ranking Republican on the Select Committee, John Tower, was asked about that today.
The committee, of course, notes with interest that Mr. Giancana was done away with. He had been contacted by some of our staff in the matter of trying to get information on the Roselli matter. The committee had not made a determination to call him as a witness. And, of course, now the matter is quite moot as to whether or not he will go.
CIA Director William Colby marched in with his lieutenants this morning, assured the senators that the CIA severed its working relationship with the Mafia some time ago. A relationship which, according to a lawyer for one mobster, had become embarrassing for both organizations. David Shoemaker, ABC News, Washington.
Is the CBS Evening News with Walter Cronkite.
Good evening. Sam Momo Giancana, the Chicago crime syndicate chieftain recently named in a reported CIA Mafia plot to assassinate Fidel Castro, has been shot to death. Federal, state, and local law enforcement authorities say the killing late last night at the 65-year-old Giancana's suburban Oak Park home looks like an underworld execution. Sharon Lovejoy reports.
The killer was face to face with Sam Giancana when he fired the first bullet. It hit him in the mouth. 2 more slugs went in under the chin, 3 others in the back of the neck. Whoever hit Sam had to be a close companion, said one Chicago police commander today. He had to be very, very close to get in for the kill. It was sometime after 10 p.m. when the killer came to Giancana's house in suburban Oak Park. Upstairs, an elderly caretaker and his wife watched television, close to a noisy room air conditioner. 2 floors below, Giancana cooked sausage and spinach for a late-night snack. There was no sign of a struggle, nothing unusual, neighbors said today, except for 5 tough-looking men outside the house earlier. Police called it the biggest hit since the killing of Albert Anastasia and Bugsy Siegel. Giancana started as a driver and enforcer for Al Capone in the 20s. In the 50s, he led a group of young bloods in a syndicate takeover. When the shooting stopped, Sam Momo Giancana was at the top, chief of the Chicago crime organization. Giancana enjoyed high living, fancy restaurants and show people like Frank Sinatra and longtime sweetheart Phyllis McGuire. But the 60s brought Giancana trouble. The government intensified investigations into organized crime and subpoenaed syndicate bosses to appear before grand juries. Giancana was so reluctant to talk, he spent all of 1965 in jail and fled to Mexico, living in exile until he was deported to the U.S. last spring. This year, more trouble. Giancana was linked to an alleged CIA plot to assassinate Fidel Castro back in the early 60s. Once again, the government started pressing Giancana for information, and that may have been why he was killed.
The first conclusion I would come to is that it was a gangland hit. Perhaps he committed some cardinal sin in the eyes of the mob, and his peers told him to knock it off. He refused to do it, and they hit him. Another possibility, if in fact there's any truth to the CIA involvement, would be perhaps his own peers are afraid that he might be subpoenaed before a congressional committee, and they will not want him to appear there for reasons of their own, principally not to engender any more publicity.
In the early years, before he and Miss McGuire sipped brandy in chic cafes, Giancana was a loyal worker for the mob's senior chieftains. Giancana's execution, police said, was so big, it had to come from those same men, the syndicate dons in New York, Chicago, and Los Angeles. Sharon Lovejoy, CBS News, Chicago.
Whatever the motive for the killing, it apparently was not robbery. Police say about $1,400 was in Giancana's pocket. The special Senate committee investigating the CIA had planned to question Giancana about the alleged Cuban plot. More on this from Daniel Shore.
Chairman Frank Church of the Senate Intelligence Committee in Lewiston, Idaho today told Tim Storrs of station KBCI that Giancana was a prospective witness on the plot against Castro.
Was he the key figure in that contingency plan of the CIA?
He's a very big figure in the Mafia.
But in the plan?
But as I say, I cannot reveal that without breaking faith with the committee.
Various authorities, federal and local, today were investigating the murder of Sam Giancana, an alleged Mafia type with long connections with the underworld. He was shot to death last night in the basement of his Oak Park, Illinois home. Shot 6 times with a .22 caliber weapon, which may have had a silencer. Giancana had been connected to reported CIA plots to kill Fidel Castro, but there's no indication that his death had anything to do with that. Yet, the method of the crime and the small caliber bullets used don't fit the usual gangland pattern, so there are questions. Here's more from Mike Jackson in Oak Park.
Sam Giancana was a grade school dropout who became Chicago's #1 underworld figure, working his way to the top with a reputation as a hitman. His business, he once told his draft board, was stealing. Later, he said the syndicate never did anything more illegitimate than most businessmen do. Giancana enjoyed the good life. Some of his best friends were in show business, and he kept the company of singer Phyllis McGuire. He spent a year in jail in the mid-60s for refusing to answer questions before a federal grand jury. Later, he slipped away to Mexico, where he invested in gambling operations. Giancana returned to the United States almost a year ago. He came back to live quietly in his home in Oak Park, a suburb west of Chicago. He died violently in the basement, dressed in sport clothes, cooking sausage and spinach.
We pretty much assumed that it wasn't a traditional gangland hit or something he was doing, because Since he's been back in the United States, since July of 1974, he's kept a very low profile. He's almost, in effect, been a tourist here.
In the last year, Peter Vira arranged for Giancana to testify before a grand jury in Chicago investigating syndicate crime.
It looks like it was something personal, something he had done to someone they were going to retaliate for him. We have no indication it was for any thing that he had done that would hurt the criminal syndicate.
The head of the FBI's organized crime squad in Chicago says Giancana was killed because he had fallen from favor with his one-time associates. Not yet established is whether Giancana played a role in a reported Central Intelligence Agency plot in 1961 to assassinate Fidel Castro. Mike Jackson, NBC News, Chicago.
Thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe to our channel and check out more of our content. Feel free to give your feedback and suggestions on what we should do next in the comments. This is Infinite Lee Productions. We love ya.